Hey everybody, it's Anakin and Viridia with Down the Scope, episode 42. What's going on, Viridia?
Oh, not much, man. Just enjoying the Steam deals and the Sims.
You never figured you'd be spending so much money until you got a PC, right?
I know, man. You know what? I counted it up, and I have. It's sad. I have like 49 Steam games, and yeah. But you know what? The best thing about it is,
Hmm.
I have not paid full price for one of them.
See, now you're doing it the Anakin way.
Yeah.
I've always been talking about all these deals for forever. I always constantly I just tell everybody anytime I see a really good deal on a game or a game peripheral or something like that, I try to spread the word as much as possible. Tell everybody I know, and I even thought at one point I thought about making a little a weekly video or something on my channel, just saying, okay, here's the deals of the week that I think everybody should get. And
No
but
kidding.
but Steam is just incredible. I mean, God, we're talking like $50 games pretty much available on Steam within 6 months of their release for as little as $5.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
ludicrous.
That's what I just paid for Borderlands, and that's one of my favorite games, man. It's just so fun, and I'm one of the rare people who enjoys the game alone as well. So even if I don't have friends around, I still enjoy it. And and with all the DLC, it was only $7. I didn't see that until after I purchased it. But all the DLC, it was only 7.24. I was like, what? And that's US dollars, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, but yeah, it's crazy. And then I got the Sims for $10, Sims 3, and
Oh man.
I'll tell you what, when you spend $15 on two games and they're this good and you don't regret it, it's a good day. It's a really good day. I mean, seriously.
Fantastic.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely been an experience. I've never played The Sims before. I mean, I've never played one at all. So um, now I understand what the hype's about for sure.
Well, it is. The Sims is still to date the best-selling game franchise of all time, supposedly.
Yeah, so yeah, it's. I mean, it appeals to so many people. I mean, this is the first game that my wife will come in and sit down and watch me play. I mean, I made her in the game. I made me, Brittany, and Sam, and I made a few other people, you and a few a few others. Control shock, old school.
Indeed.
But yeah, I made them, and Brittany comes in. She's just like enthralled with it. And the thing is if she wasn't such a technophobe, she would probably play it. But she just she's not gonna learn how to. I mean, it is pretty confusing. You got to admit. I mean, with the
Oh
keyboard
yeah.
and all that, but
Yeah, I played the original Sims when it first came out. I played the original Sims, and then I'm pretty sure I tried out the Sims 2 for a little while. And obviously they've been adding more and more and more and more features over time. And then they make all these expansions, and I started seeing like Sims pets and Sims date
yeah,
night and Sims going to work, and I'm just like, what? You
I'll
know?
tell you. I'll tell you what. I went in there because Michaela, one of our viewers and listeners, she was like, she saw the pictures on Facebook and she was like, oh my God, I I love the Sims pets, the Sims 3 pets. I was like, oh man, that would be so cool to have a little dog running around the house. So I'm like, all right, I'll go buy the. It's probably like $3 for the DLC. I calculated up if you bought every DLC for the Sims 3, you would pay $320.
Good God.
Yeah, it's $40 just for the pets. And I was like, no thanks. No thanks, Mr. Salesman. I was pretty upset. I was like, that sucks. I got to pay $40 to have a dog. It's like in the game. But the thing is that I mean, it's been out for what, 2, 3 years now,
Yeah.
and I guess over time, to keep expanding your game, it's not that bad. But boy, man, they should probably be a little bit less than that. It's just I wouldn't spend $40 for a map pack and COD, let alone a dog in The Sims. So
Yeah, I mean that's a little much.
yeah,
It's kind of over
it's
the top.
kind of excessive. But in any case, what have you been playing? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm still on this love and hate relationship with Modern Warfare 3. I mean, this is
Hmm.
sad. I mean, there's so many new games coming out. But by the way, a new game that I actually have not tried. I'm actually holding it right here in my hands at the moment. I picked up once again. Speaking of deals, I found a deal this week on that crazy horror game, Rise of Nightmares, on the Kinect on the 360 of all
Oh,
things.
right.
And
Yeah.
it got rave reviews. They were saying that this is one of the only real adult games or hardcore quote unquote games on the Kinect. And I haven't even unwrapped it. I just got it in today. Somebody, I forget, I think it was Newegg or somebody, had a crazy deal on it earlier in the week, and it's free shipping, no tax or whatever. I think it was like $10, and I'm like, my
Dang.
God, and they wanted $50 for that game when it came out, and
Oh
it's not
yeah,
even.
yeah,
I don't even think it's 4 or 5 months old now. So
yeah.
anyway, I got that. I haven't played it, but I will be checking that out this weekend, and I may even get a wild hair and do one of my Connect videos where I may do like a blind playthrough or something on my green screen and
An an
with it.
Anakin video?
I know, it's unheard of, right? But
This is bullshit.
back to the Modern Warfare thing. I do want to talk about that just briefly here. I don't want to go on and on and on about it because I mean, there's just oh God, it's like, is anybody really playing Call of Duty lately? It's just, I really do believe that this particular version of Call of Duty has probably dropped off quicker than any Call of Duty in the history of the franchise. Now, this is just my personal experience. I don't really know. I don't really know what the stats are. I mean, I know that there's a lot of, as always, a lot of newcomers to this one that
Hmm.
have never played any Call of Duty before. But man, I'll tell you what, when Black Ops came out, I hardly had anybody on my friends list on Xbox that was not playing it. And then it was kind of the same thing with Modern Warfare 2 prior to that. But now, man, after Modern Warfare 3, I guarantee you, at any given moment on my friends list and it's obviously always still to this day, my Xbox friends list is still full, and so is my PS3 list. I bet you at any given moment, I probably have less than 20 online friends that are playing it.
Oh
And
wow.
I mean, that's to me pretty darn significant. I know there's somewhere online you can go and look at for the Xbox stats, and they'll show you what the most played games are of the week. And I'm sure it's still probably the number one or something, but I think it's certainly there's certainly a much more a bigger diversity in what everybody I know is playing. Obviously this last fall was a really big year for games too. I mean, Skyrim and Dark Souls
Hmm.
and a lot of people have been drawn away to the PC with the Star Wars Old Republic and some of these Steam sales now are still luring people back to the PC from the consoles.
Oh yeah.
So people are just, as far as I can tell, they're just not playing Call of Duty like they used to, and there's just so many other things out there. But I'm still playing it off and on. It's just still a good game when I come home and I just kind of want to vegetate a little bit after work. I've read the whole internet, and now I'm like, okay, I got an hour before I'm gonna hit the bed and get ready for work tomorrow. So what the heck? I can jump in and play 6 or 7 games of free for all, or maybe a few domination matches or something. And to this day, still, okay, this game's been out 4 months now, and this game, I can get on there in one night. I can do no wrong. Last night was one of those nights I could do no wrong. I was playing free for alls all night, and the average game for me was 30-6, 30-8, 30-9.
Nice.
I mean, just over and over and over. And this is me not even really playing with anybody I know. This is just me jumping into supposedly matches that I'm matched up with. Of people like my skill level. But it was like I could do no wrong. But the night before that, it was literally the opposite. I could do no right every time. In fact, I had a game the night before that I went. Now this is me, okay? I mean, free for all is my game, okay?
Yeah, I
And
know that.
and
I know
I
that firsthand. Yeah.
6-21.
Woo.
6-21. And this was one of those like, okay, this is a map I know very well. I'm using my main standard loadout class. And, it was like I shot people and I just got hit markers every time. And people would move and I'd be like, what's going on? And I'd look at the lag and I had 4 bars and, it was just like, it was just whatever nothing I could do. And I would chalk that up normally to just like, well, I had a bad game. But no, the whole evening was like that.
Right.
So I just don't understand. It just to me is still to this day. This is the same thing I complained about with Black Ops. Still to this day, I don't understand the inconsistency in Black Ops and now in Modern Warfare 3. I can go back to Call of Duty 4 or Modern Warfare 2. Never do I experience anything even remotely close to that. I'm a fairly consistent player overall. Sure,
Right.
I'll have a game that's a little lower end here or there or whatever. But generally speaking, it's just I should be in free for all, no matter who I'm matched up with, unless I'm just in some MLG group or something, and even then I can tell if I'm outmatched. I'm generally going to be in the top, two or three, just by the sheer play style.
Right.
And man, I don't know, I don't get it. So I've just once again, I get really irritated at the game, and then I bail out of it for a week. I just don't play it for a
Hmm.
while, and then I'll come back to it again, and
Yeah. Well, on my stream recently, I've been playing quite a bit of Call of Duty just because I went over to my friend Jordan's house, and he's the same as you. He's like, I don't play much COD, blah blah blah. Well, come to find out, much COD to him is he didn't spend as much time as he did with like Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2 combined. So he's got like every gun is gold.
oh
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. He's like, yeah, I'm trying it out. I'm like, no, you're not. I was like, that's not trying it out. I
yeah.
was like, you're playing the crap out of it. So I decided I need at least one golden gun. Um, so I've been getting golden guns. That's what, and I've been doing pretty good, honestly. And then to be honest, I'm having a lot of fun with the survival mode in Spec
Oh
Ops.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually, I was doing that for a little while, and I was really enjoying that. And that in the Juggernaut mode, where somebody gets to be the Juggernaut against everybody else. I,
Yeah,
I really like
infection.
those modes.
Yeah. I do as well. And survival, it's rewarding because the more you level up, the you're like, oh, I got a turret now. Let's see how far I can get now. That I can throw down a turret and all this crap. And the more you play, you're actually rewarded. Whereas in zombies, it's just like, yeah, all right, I did it. I played for 2 hours. I got to round 39. Don't really feel like I personally felt, it's like I don't need to do that again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. That was the thing too, is with the zombie deal. I respected people who really enjoyed it and just loved every minute of it. But man, it's like once I made it to like a certain level, and it took like 4 hours of freaking game time to get there. It was like, well, I'm kind of done with that. you know?
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like back in the day, like I mean even to strive for a score is okay, but it's just most people just want to play zombies. And the funniest thing is a lot of the people that I know that really are like enthralled with zombies, it's like, hey, you want to play zombies? And they're like, nah, I just like talking about it. I just like the story. I'm not a fan of playing the same shit over and over.
Yeah.
But, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you gotta hand it to Reed. Red
God,
Ostrich God. I mean, man,
yeah.
devoting your whole channel basically to zombies for like over a year,
Uh-huh.
almost 2 years. It was like that was the only thing he covered, and I mean, man, he covered the heck out of it. But still, it's like
Yeah.
how can you talk about it that much?
Well, I'm gonna give him hats off to Reed simply for the fact that he did change his channel. He's doing his LPs now, and that's exciting because I really wanted to see him do something other than that, and I know it was upsetting him, and it's awesome that he did that. Um, But yeah, man, like you, I don't see how the hell he did it for so long. Like I know it was bugging him. He's just like, there's only so many times I can play Verrucht. He's
Yeah,
just so
yeah,
mad.
no kidding.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, he is a better man than I. That's all I gotta say with that.
Exactly.
So
But
beyond
anyway,
beyond the Call of Duty thing, now I'll tell you, I have done some more Old Republic from Star Wars,
right?
and
How are you enjoying that? You told me that you actually told me a couple weeks ago that you would be able to now discuss how these things were time wasters.
well, Man, I'll tell you, the world of MMOs, God, I'm just, I can still tell you now, even after having played one, finally, this is my first one, and, I've seen all of my friends play them. They've all talked about it. I go to lunch with these guys from my company, and, I know a lot of these guys in real life. I've known a lot of them a long time, and some of my friends, they are hardcore MMO guys. I mean, hardcore. They will play every MMO that comes out and they will try each one, hoping for the new World of Warcraft. And of course, none of them ever are, and
Right.
they always end up back in the land of Azeroth, at some point. So, but Star Wars: Old Republic, they finally talked me into it, and then even then, when it came out, I still didn't get it. It came out in December in the U.S. And I still didn't buy it. I waited in the sidelines just to hear what everybody kind of had to say, and they were all telling me all about it and saying, "Oh man, you need to check this out. It's right up your alley." And I'm like, "Yeah, I bet." So anyway, and I was interested, so I listened to all the things they had to say, and then my wife got it for me for Valentine's Day, oddly enough, and so I
What a
was like,
what a dear.
indeed,
What a dear.
it's kind of an anti-Valentine's gift in a roundabout way.
It's like leave me the hell alone.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, all right, okay, fine. Here it is. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to play it, and I am only, and this is sad, I'm only level 11, okay?
Oh wow.
Which literally in an MMO is, most people get to
Yeah.
11 in a night, But,
Yeah.
again, I play it and I enjoy it and I do little side quests and, I died a few times because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But, I've really kind of, gotten the hang of it now and I understand what I'm supposed to be doing. But, here's the deal. The MMO genre, the whole caliber of games that fall into the MMO world can get away with absolute murder in the way that the game is designed. Okay,
Yeah.
here's the deal. Imagine a great RPG. An RPG that I mean, there's tons of them out there now. You got all the BioWare games like Mass Effect and the Assassin's Creed games are action RPGs of sorts, and you've got a lot of the. I mean, you're an RPG guy. I mean, some of
Mhm.
the bigger, very very well known RPGs out there that you would consider to be like hardcore RPGs.
Well, you mean like Mass Effect and
Yeah,
Far Cry? You're
yeah,
working your
Far
way up
Cry.
there. I mean, there's a ton. Reckoning, Kingdoms of Amalur.
Yeah, there you go. There's a prime one right there. Okay, and even the deal is some of these standard RPGs still have certain game mechanics that they get away with. Okay, things where they're you go and talk to a character and the character says hey, go over here to River Rundown Fell, whatever the heck the name is, and then and go rescue my cat from a tree, and and it's like, okay, you walk over there, you got to go over there. It takes maybe, let's say, a minute to go, a minute to trek the distance or whatever. You go over there and it's maybe a minute long exercise that, some task that you do. And then you walk all the way back and you got the cat in your arms or something. You walk all the way back and then you hit the little person and you say, okay, and talk to this person. And he goes, oh, thank you so much. And then there's like another person standing right next to him. And then you stand next to them and then you talk to the other guy. And the other guy goes, hey, will you go and fetch me a shovel? And the shovel happens to be like literally 5 feet from where the cat was stuck in the. You're like, wait a minute. Okay, I just was over there. So then you trek back over there for a minute and you find a little shovel and you come back, here you go. And he's like, oh, thank you so much for the shovel. And the deal is, it's like, okay, now in those games, they're still wasting your time because, the task is not necessarily hard. It doesn't
Right.
really even require any true skill or anything. You're not even shooting anything, or there's no conflict. You're just going over there and generally performing an extremely simple task. But by making you traverse some ridiculous distance, anywhere from 10 feet away to 2 towns away, it becomes this, to me, it becomes this ridiculous waste of time.
Oh yeah.
Now that's, to me, that's just my personal overview of RPGs. MMOs, oh my God, they do that to the nth degree. Okay,
Oh yeah.
it's like I'm in Star Wars and I'm talking to some character and he's like, oh, you need to go see this guy. And I look on the freaking map and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, and I see this little marker that I'm supposed to get to. And this is no lie, this is probably a 5 minute in game, a 5 minute trek. Now,
Hmm.
5 minutes, okay, you think, I would, no, no big deal. 5 minutes, take the walk. But this is
That's it.
5 minutes of just pressing W on the keyboard. Okay, it's like seriously, it's like W, and I'm just like,
Don't you love that they make an auto walk button?
seriously, that's a sad state. Just that they make an auto walk button is a sign of a bad game in my opinion. Okay, but here's the deal: you make the walk, okay, and then boom, you're in an action. You're in some kind of action moment. You're like, okay, shoot this guy, and you kill the guy, and then you got to pick up his crap that he dropped, and you pick it up, and you're like, all right, I got some cool stuff. All right, you go and then you have some thing, some widget that you got to bring back to somebody.
Right.
Okay, so now you're 5 minutes in. You probably had a 2 minute battle, and then you got to make the 5 minute trek back. Okay, now you're 12 minutes into this one, quest or mission, whatever. You get back, and as you're going like back or something, there's somebody on the map that greets you. Let's say you're 2.5 minutes back, halfway back to go do this thing, and this other guy greets you and goes, "Hey, I need you to go back to so and so and get this guy, kill him for me. Will you do that?" And it's like, really, dude? I just freaking left there.
Yeah.
And so, then you got to go all the way back. And here's the worst part: MMOs, they respawn everybody. They respawn. I mean, everybody respawns in like 30 seconds or something. So you walk all the way back, and you got to fight the exact same thing you just did, but you can't. You don't gain anything because you already got the widget you needed. And then you got to go past them into this area that now you got to do something else to somebody. You come back out of the area. Oh, but there's the guy again, or the 3 or 4 guys that you have to kill because they're at the entrance area. So then you got to go through that method again for nothing because you don't really get the widget. You already have it. Then you
Yeah.
go all the way back, and it's just like, oh my God,
The thing is that I know what you're talking about, even though I've never played an MMO really. I mean, I did play WoW, and I got that, but as we discussed, Kingdoms of Amalur was supposed to be an MMO,
Right,
and
right,
so therefore it was designed even as a single player game very much in the same design. I mean, in the same uh, blueprints. It was pretty much the exact same method, and it was fun for a while, and then it's just
I like
like
how you said for a while.
yeah, I mean, I was having fun with it for a long time, and it was mainly because I felt like I was getting ahead of the game, and I was like, sweet. And then like you realize that you would have had so much more fun had you not done any side quests. The
Exactly.
game now, I set the game on the hardest difficulty, right?
Okay.
And I'm still not having a challenge.
Mm.
I could stand there. I have to try to die, and it's really annoying. And I have the best armor, and I'm not even halfway through the main story, and I'm just like, wow, there's really nothing to strive for here. But these side quests and missions, it's basically like, go and get 2 of these and bring it back to me, and like it's just like I know what you mean. It's like they want you to walk all this way and then walk all the way back. But this game has a quick move feature, so literally one quest for like a whole level of experience could take you 2 seconds. It's like, I need you to go all the way over here to get this. All right, quick travel, pick them up, then come back immediately, and it's like you gained a level. It's honestly like, why didn't you just give me the experience for finding her?
Oh, but let me tell you what's wonderful about MMOs. Quick travel has a cooldown period. Okay, you've explored an entire planet. Let's say, okay, in Star Wars, I'm playing a bounty hunter, and you start off on a planet called Hutta.
Uh-huh.
And it's no coincidence the planet's called Hutta because you can imagine the types of people you're dealing with, which happen to be these ruling huts, on the planet.
Right.
So here's the deal: you say, "Oh, okay," and the guys that were, they all these guys I go to lunch with, and everything. They're hilariously cracking up at all my complaints. They're like, "Dude, it's an MMO. What do you expect?"
Right.
So I tell them exactly what I'm telling you, right now. I'm just like, "Okay, this is ridiculous," and they're like, "Why didn't you fast travel?" And I'm like, oh my God, okay, fine. Well, Jesus, I didn't even know you could do that. So you can like double click or some nonsense on the mini map, and you can, if you've been there at least once before or explored that area, now you can go there again. And I'm like, oh, well, kick ass. All right. Oh, you can do that once per 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I mean, do you know how long? I mean, at that point, you're just like, holy crap,
I know.
this is ridiculous, and
Uh,
it's so mind-numbingly just irritating. You know, the thing is I think MMOs are really geared towards a younger audience, people who are, you know, teenagers in high school, maybe college somethings, maybe even people who are out of college, who aren't married, have no kids. You know, maybe they're just kind of, you know, working a standard job or whatever, and there's just not much going on in their life that they can devote literally, you know, 8 hours a day or something to these games, because that's really the only way you can truly get ahead. For me, I'm lucky to get in, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours of gaming a night. And even then, that's when, you know, that's when I'm kind of in the mood for that. So it's like,
right.
you know, for me, an MMO it obviously isn't a good fit, and I knew that, and that's why I've never played them before. But now I really see it's actually from finally playing one, it is literally worse than I ever thought after listening to everybody else talk. And you know what's sad? Even after all of this that I'm saying, okay, after all of this, I actually still get that urge to load it and play it. Even having like walked, you know, these
Yep.
ridiculous things, the time that it's fun and good is when it really does shine. You know, the games are fun, and I like all the different things you can do, and the leveling, and the, you know, the story and the characters and all this cool stuff. Like I really like all that. But my God, it's just like the walking around. It just, oh my God, you know, if even if the environment was interesting or something, that would be one thing. I was actually bitching about Mass Effect because I still haven't finished either of the first two Mass Effects, and you know, of course,
Right.
you know, this is a good transition into the you know, release this week of Mass Effect 3. But you
Right.
know, Mass Effect 1, and I know that they kind of spruced it up a little in 2. Okay, I have not played 2, but in Mass Effect 1, it's so similar in the game mechanics. You know, you go and you do a quest for somebody. You know, somebody wants you to do something, and you trek along inside the Citadel or wherever you are, and you walk through all these hallways, and all the hallways have the same textures. There's nobody around. The only time you pass characters, the characters are just, you know, static, and they're just, you know, staring at a wall or something. You know, and you know, and it's like it's not populated. There's nothing that changes. There's no game environment or whatever, and you literally, like, there's nothing to do in the 2 minute walk from point A to point B. There's nothing to do, and you go over to point B, and then you got to go back to point A again, and you know, you do whatever, and you go all the way back over there, and then just like, okay, and then the next mission again has you going almost exactly the same path to go somewhere
Hmm.
else, and it's like I feel like, you know, Mass Effect is like a 30 or 40 hour game or something from what I've been told. You know, and this is not a, you know, I'm not talking completionist or anything. I'm just saying story wise. I think it's about a 30-hour game. I think that's what
It's
kind of the,
it's
the
yeah.
general
It's
rule
it's
is.
about right.
But you know, I swear to you, 10 hours is probably a good game. You know, there's probably 10 hours of a really good game in there, like a really, really good game. And then there's 20 hours of walking around.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Like, that's what makes Mass Effect such an interesting story to tell. I mean, it's one of those games that honestly, when it first came out, it didn't do that well. I mean, it got, some people even gave it sevens,
Right,
but they stuck in there and they listen. It's just a lot like a lot like Assassin's Creed, honestly.
right, right.
They stuck in there, and then the second one was so phenomenally better, so much better that it will shock you. And actually, my buddy Seth, he didn't even play the first one. He hated it so bad, and I was like, dude, just play the second one. You'll love it. And he decided to just read up on the first one, so he read like a very in-depth story analysis of what happened, and he chose his path or whatever, and then he played the second one, and he went out and bought Mass Effect 3 day one. Um,
Wow.
and I mean, it's a very good game. It's one of, if I had to choose, it would be the best story in a game, period. And the main reason is because it draws you in so much. And with Mass Effect 3, I'm very excited. You know, a lot of you guys out there probably already played this game. Anakin and I have not yet.
Right.
Um, you know, like we say every freaking week, we're pretty freaking busy. Having kids probably should have been the end of our careers here, but
Yeah, really.
but uh, but yeah, I mean, you know, I haven't played it, but I've heard a lot about how good it is, and how just phenomenal it is, and how it puts a decent end on things. The one thing that I have to agree with a lot of people out there about not liking, though, is the day one DLC, that
Yeah.
basically makes the game more for crap that you don't really want. I mean, it's like, I mean, not that you don't really want, but crap that should have been in there anyway that you don't want to have to pay extra money for. Um, you know, it's I don't even know. Do you know what the DLC is? I think it's a character.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's a character or maybe a costume or something. I don't even remember now what it is because there's been so much hoopla about all the different DLC. The day one DLC is just absolute nonsense from what I understand. A lot of people that's what really it doesn't even matter what the DLC is. What has everybody up in arms is the idea that you've bought a brand new game and they literally hold back content during production of the game. They hold back content to charge you extra.
Oh yeah, it's complete and utter bullshit.
And the idea of DLC was a great idea when they first talked about it. You put out a great game, and the game is out there. A lot of people, buy it and they play it, and maybe the multiplayer aspect is keeping them playing it. And then the publishers and the developers they watch the game, and as the interest in the game starts to wane, and they stop seeing people like on the statistics that PSN and Xbox Live provide, and maybe even they just kind of look at the community as well, and they start seeing the game wane. They go, oh, hey, listen, we need to, let's put out some content. Let's put out some new
Yeah,
content. Give the game some new life.
i.e. Sims 3.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't do that now. Now it is a cash grab. And I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I don't either. It's like, I mean, a game like The Sims 3 is a game like, it was out for a while and then they're like, all right, let's add some content, and they're keeping the game fresh by adding content. Mass Effect, it's like, whoa, we didn't think the freshness was good enough. It's like brushing your teeth and then eating a Tic Tac. It's you're wasting Tic Tacs. Save them for later. Save them
Exactly.
for when your breath starts to stink again. It's just bullcrap, and you know, I can't believe that they would hold out a character. I mean, can you imagine playing The Legend of Zelda and then it's like, but if you don't get the special edition, which costs $20 more, you got to play as some other character other than Link. But if
Right.
you don't get Link, so it's like, wait a minute, I don't get to play as Link. No, you got to play as Ferdinand. It's
Right.
he's Link's retarded brother, and it's like, dang it, man. It's like, all right, well, I'm obviously going to dish out the money because I want to, I don't want to be a loser here, and I don't want to miss out on the story. And a game like Mass Effect 3, where these characters have such a humongous influence on the story, it's like you're kind of screwed if you don't. It's like, I mean, here's the thing. I bought Mass Effect 2 day one and beat it, and I've beaten it a few times since then, but I wasn't big enough fan to go and get the DLC, right?
Right.
Well, Seth bought it for the PS3 because he's a PS3 gamer, and PS3 version came with all the DLC included. So but it came out like a year later.
Right.
So had been a year since I'd beaten the game and all that, and he's sitting there asking me about these characters, and I'm like, dude, I've never heard of them. So the thing is that these characters are alive in his game, and I won't ever see them because I never downloaded them in the second one, so they won't be in my game in the third game.
Right.
It's just like I would have had to play it over anyway. It's like I don't want to play all the way through Mass Effect 2. It was a good game, but I'm not big on playing a game like 5 times in a year. It's like
Sure.
I don't have to play it all the way over just to get a new character for the third game, and so I don't know. Maybe it's good because I wouldn't have gotten them anyway, and my game's going to continue to be the way I shaped it to be. But as far as I know, I think this character is pretty much one that you're going to want to have.
Yeah.
a main character of some kind. If we're wrong, correct us in the comments and tell us what the DLC was. But even as far as GameStop goes, they've always got some DLC bullcrap. And I actually got, when I bought Kingdoms of Amalur, I actually got um, I guess it was a pre-order copy, and I got the Mass Effect armor in that game. And that stuff's okay to me. I don't care, because honestly, it was just a cool little side thing. But
Right.
like we've been talking about, when you start adding characters, go to hell. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
And it was like what we talked about Portal 2 with that too. It was like literally like $800 worth of DLC for like Portal 2, and but it was all garbage. It was all cosmetic,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
gestures and clothes and outfits and all these weird things for your robot character, your droid characters or whatever. And it was just like, what? I mean, who's buying this stuff? But
exactly.
but we talked about that on one of our previous episodes, and apparently there actually was quite a few people who found a lot of entertainment value in purchasing these little, oddball deals. But I mean, I just, I'm not really a fan of that. I mean, if you give me more content, real content, then I'm on board. I mean, that's why, Modern Warfare and Battlefield 3, I think they've kind of got the right idea. They'll give you, something that really enhances or freshens the gameplay. Maps, weapons, vehicles, that's kind of the stuff that is really going to freshen up a game.
Yeah,
A costume or a gesture or even just a character model that doesn't change the game, I'm not interested. That doesn't add anything for me.
yeah, I totally agree. And this DLC is bullcrap. And now with the transition that we've heard a rumor about from the Durango of not having a disk drive,
Yeah,
this is probably going to be a more and more, and you're going to see this more and more. You know what I mean?
right.
Which conveniently leads us on to the next topic.
Indeed.
So we've heard some rumors of Durango losing the disk drive, completely getting rid of it. And this, I think we kind of we hinted at this, I think, last week, or not. Maybe it wasn't last week. It was a couple episodes back when we talked about how these companies like GameStop are going to have a run for their money, just because there's not going to be any disc-based games.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to be able to take advantage of the whole used game market like they've been doing. If there's not going to be a disc, then they're not going to have anything to sell out of the GameStop stores. So it should be very interesting to see what happens. So this whole thing with the disc drive, I've been hearing it too. I'm not sure what to make out of it. What's your thoughts on it?
Man, I think it's, well, you got to look at it this way. One, you're going to have to up the price of the console there, period, just because think about how much space a game takes up. It takes up about, well, okay, the current gen games take up about 7 to 8 gigs of space on average.
Right. But there's
So,
plenty of others that are two
oh yeah,
discs these days. Now you're talking, possibly up to 15 gig or so.
exactly. And for even the Xbox Now, it comes with imagine buying an Xbox 360 with a 4 gigabyte hard drive, and then you couldn't even play one game.
Yeah,
You couldn't.
you wouldn't even be able to sell it. I mean, there would be nothing you could do with it.
Right. So I mean, now our systems are going to have to come with hundreds of gigs, not just 4 gigs. You're going to have hundreds and hundreds of gigs of space.
Oh, I'd even go as far as say terabytes.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
you're talking on. Let's say you want. I mean, what does the average gamer have laying around their shelf? People, especially people who don't trade.
Oh, I've got hundreds of games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, now you're talking about, let's even say on average they're 8, maybe let's just make a round figure here and let's just say 10 gigs on average because some may be 8, some may be 16
Well, and with
or
this
whatever.
new generation of graphics, it's going to be a lot
Oh, they're
more.
going to be bigger, exactly. But let's just make a round figure here and say a game is 10 gigs, okay? And
Hmm.
let's say the average person is probably buying, let's say, a game or possibly two a month, and I'm talking about hardcore gamers here. I'm not talking about, guys that are, don't have a whole lot of money or in school or something like that and they can't buy a new game all the time. But, I'd say, people who are generally on YouTube, listening to podcasts and looking at games and all that, I would say that's generally a fairly, a hardcore gamer, and they're probably going to be buying a lot of AAA titles throughout the year. I mean, I know you and I did, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I bet you I probably bought 30 games last year, maybe 20 games last year. I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
pay full price for all of them, mind you, but still. All right, now let's talk about that. 30 games, 10 gigs, I mean, you're talking 300 gigs right there,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
in 1 year. And remember, everybody buys consoles for, 4, 5, 6 years, So there's no way that they're going to be able to get away with selling a console without a disk drive with less than a terabyte as their
Mm-hmm.
base system. I mean, unless they just expect people to just delete games left and right, which is ludicrous.
Man, I know it bugs the crap out of me. Not only that, man, now we're getting into the realm of the physical copy, something that, you and I greatly we cherish that, and I definitely
Absolutely.
do. It bugs me on Steam paying full price for a game when I don't get a box for it. And I was sitting there thinking about that the other day. I was like, man, I just, I know they take up space, but I enjoy having them. And
I
it,
agree.
I'm looking at all the games, all the 40 something games I had on there. I was like, can you imagine if I had all those boxes? That'd look really nice right now.
Yeah.
It's, but you're not going to have that. Not only that, these games are taking advantage of the one thing that the pre-orders take advantage of these days are art books and
Absolutely.
illustrative, little posters and crap like that. That's not going to happen anymore. You can't unless they ship it to you, which
Yeah,
it's
and
like
that's not going to happen.
no, they're not going to do that.
They'll say
Um,
download your free PDF.
exactly. Download the PDF and print it out at the
Yeah.
Kinkos. It's like, but you gotta think. What would GameStop do other than become kind of like their own Steam? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there'd be like a humongous GameStop app that you could download on your Xbox and you could buy your games through them. What are you going to do? Buy them used? What are you gonna do? It's like yeah, I downloaded the game yesterday, didn't like it, so I sold it to GameStop for $5, and now they're selling it for less because it's tainted.
Right. Yeah, those bytes are used.
They're the exact bytes I used, and I used them pretty dirtily.
Yeah. The one thing I have to say, the one good thing that would come out of the idea of nothing but online distribution is the idea that GameStop would go away. It would disappear almost as fast as it appeared originally back in the late 90s. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm telling you, I loathe those guys. I hate
I do
GameStop.
too.
And for them to be so smug and to have taken advantage of people for so long, and the gaming crowd not really knowing enough or not having the savvy enough, and parents are as much to blame as much as some of the younger gamers out there who get
Mm,
really taken advantage of. They go buy a brand new game, then they go sell the game. And they get, they get $10 for a freaking brand new game they just paid $60 for, 2 weeks prior. And
hmm
then GameStop turns around and puts it back on the shelf for 50. It's like, no, that's not how it works. That's not supply and demand here.
Exactly.
So don't even
Exactly.
get me started. We've talked about, obviously, we
Oh
talked
yeah.
about it in the past.
Well, I fear that because of the lack of disk drive, what's going to happen is that GameStop is going to evolve much like Blockbuster did. When Blockbuster realized that Netflix and the internet was the new way of the movie rental, they switched over to doing the same thing that Netflix did.
Right.
They pulled the plug on their rental stores, and they started doing what Netflix did. I'm kind of thinking that GameStop, they might follow the way of GameFly, or not GameFly, but
Kind of
what
like
is it?
Steam.
Well, not just Steam, but they also might follow the way of OnLive.
Oh,
They might even
right.
think about making some kind of device where you can play your games through it. you know I don't know, and possibly by doing that be able to sell their own games at a cheaper price, or whatever price they have, and therefore allow them to have their own sales.
Right.
And that's the key thing to keep yourself in business, is you want to have sales. I mean, that's what Steam is doing. Steam is crazy. They get to put these games on sale, and the thing is that they only keep a fraction of the cost of the game. The rest of it
Sure,
goes
yeah.
toward the developers. So I don't know, but as long as these systems aren't so overpriced that it's just ridiculous, with the amount of space, I'm not totally against the disk drive being gone, because we talked about this as well. I think that disk drive has been the main cause of breakdown in a system for since I can remember. If a disk drive breaks down, it's pretty much like the first thing to happen to a system.
Well, think
Uh,
about it. The disk drive is the only mechanical item in
yeah,
a console. Otherwise, what you're buying is literally like a motherboard with a bunch of chips on it inside a plastic housing. I mean, there's nothing else there.
exactly.
The only other mechanical item you would even have to deal with is a fan to keep the thing cool. But really, when you're getting into removing things like disk drives and all that, there's probably a way to just put the just find a way to vent the system easily without having even mechanical parts whatsoever. So now your power doesn't need to be as high. Half the power demands on
Hmm.
PS3s and Xboxes are for the disk drives. So
Exactly.
so there are some benefits. Okay, there's some benefits to it. And the thing is I've always said this is that it is going to happen.
Exactly.
The question is it going to happen on these new consoles coming out next year?
Exactly.
That's really the big question. And here's where I'm at with this whole topic. I know that the rumor mill out there, nobody really knows. I bet you people at Microsoft don't even know, right now what they're planning to, what the final end result's going to be. But the deal is there's going to be hundreds of rumors and speculation on the latest PS3 and the latest Xbox. But the deal is I'm almost convinced that this new generation coming out next year, if
Hmm.
indeed they even come out next year, I'm almost convinced they have to have some kind of disc media. And if nothing else, it's going to be for backward compatibility. There is
Yeah.
such a huge investment that people have in the PS3 now and the 360. There is almost no way that they would guarantee loyalty if they don't have some kind of level of backward compatibility.
Well, but you have to think about what the PS3 has done. I mean, they didn't have backwards compatibility with their PS2 games. So what did they start doing? Making more money off their PS2 games by offering them as downloadable. Can you imagine if Xbox did that with their 360 and regular Xbox games? They made these things downloadable. I mean, I can't tell you like how many people I know that are buying their PS2 games over again
Yeah, yeah.
just to have them on the PS3, because either their PS2 doesn't work anymore, or they don't want to go out and spend $50 on a used one, or they just can't find one.
Now
And
on the PS3 thing though, the original PS3 that came out, the 20 gig, the original
hmm
one, that one actually did have full backward compatibility, and so did the 60 gig.
it did, yeah. And one of the 80 gigs did as well, I'm pretty sure.
The 80 gig had software back compatibility, which was a little weird because it basically was a PS2 emulator in the
Exactly.
PS3.
Exactly. And it does the same thing for the PS1. And the reason I know this is because the Final Fantasy games, they're really tough to run on an emulator. And one of the things that is hard for it to do is the map screen for some reason. And every time I've tried to emulate it on the computer, it's always had a glitchy map screen. So when I put it in the PS3, and it did the same thing. It's basically just running the disk as an emulator. It's ripping the ISO image off and then running it as an emulator.
Right.
And yeah, it's pretty crazy. But uh, I think that Xbox will do that. I think that they'll do that because they haven't done it yet. I mean, they've done it with a few games like Psychonauts and
They did it with the Chronicles of Riddick game, Butcher
exactly.
Bay. They did it with a couple of others, and they brought forward some games. But remember too, here's the other angle that they're probably looking at. They're going to probably do with their big flagship games what Microsoft just did with the first Halo. They're going to re-release it. They're going to
Hmm.
re-release it with new graphics. And then charge everybody half the price of the original game. And it's like,
Well,
wait a minute.
they're finding out that they can. I mean, and they don't even have to do it. I mean, I back up Halo. The anniversary collection, because they actually remade the whole thing. They didn't just say it's an HD collection and they just made it in HD. They actually redid it. But
Right.
games like the Jack and Daxter collection, it's the same game. It's just in HD. I mean, how much work can that possibly take?
Right. Right.
to,
Yeah.
to take the code and just because as far as I know, all the games are already made in that format anyway.
Sure.
They just have to dumb it down because
Hmm.
when I watched because I bought the Shadow of Colossus HD collection, didn't regret that at all. But I mean, honestly, but I mean, uh, when I watched the making video, the making of thing, they were talking about how they were upset because they had to, reduce the quality when it was played on a normal TV. So it means they already pretty much made it in HD before, but there weren't TVs around that could really,
Take
handle it.
advantage. Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, it's pretty funny how some of that works out. But I don't know. I
Well,
guarantee you that's what they're gonna do.
the thing is I'm pretty sure that I won't be surprised if that's what happens. But at the same time, I find it very, very difficult to believe that, you know, you got to imagine, think of the gaming industry right now. The game industry is absolutely massive. It's one of the biggest industries right now. And in fact, I remember reading last year it has overtaken Hollywood for the amount of dollars that gaming as an
Hmm.
industry brings in. So here's the deal. Think about the number of businesses and people, the idea of a digital distribution network controlled by the consoles. Think about how that would affect places like Best Buy
Oh
or
yeah.
Target or what all these big U.S. chains, and then you get into places that are specific gaming stores like GameStop. I mean, you can't have a GameStop that sells nothing but hardware peripherals. I mean, that it's there's not enough money in it. There's no way to ever buy stuff like that. So the point is, what I'm getting at is that I know it's inevitable, and I actually embrace the idea. I mean, just like Steam, I think Steam is a great thing. I still like hard disks as on a personal level,
Hmm.
but I don't really have a problem with digital distribution.
Yeah, me neither.
So what I still think though is I still think these next gen consoles, I still believe that there's almost no way on a financial level. I just don't think they're going to be able to get away without having some kind of hard media.
Yeah.
Even if it's a USB, some kind of weird USB thing, where you can go to the store and you buy a
Which
USB
which might be
stick.
it. Yeah. I mean that's very possible that that it may be diskless, but it may not be completely downloadable. We talked about that too. With the USB drives and all that stuff. That's a
Right.
very big possibility as well. Because they can protect those things just like they can make it
Sure.
so that nothing can be removed or taken off. But man, I don't know. I've never heard of it like before, so I guess it's the new concept is kind of like a scare. But
Right, right. Well,
I don't
it's
know.
certainly going to be interesting. The original rumor a couple of weeks back said that the new Xbox was going to have a Blu-ray player, which made perfect sense. Because that we've talked about this as well, is that the new consoles, you can't even call them gaming consoles anymore. They're trying to change the name to entertainment devices. And did
Hmm.
you see recently? Speaking of that, the PlayStation Network. I think who the name Sony removed the name game from one of their divisions. I think it was like the Sony Gaming Division or something like that, and now it is called the Sony Entertainment Division. And what they're doing is they're changing this so that they're not pigeonholing themselves into a gaming a gaming group or a gaming company or a gaming device.
Right.
Now they're getting to the point of where this is going to be your movies, your music, your social media, your games, your everything, your communication, whatever it may be. It's all going to be in this. So I just feel like there's almost no way that they're going to get to a point where it's completely diskless in this upcoming generation. I
Right.
feel like it's probably going to be one more generation after this when it finally goes 100%. Here's a box you buy at the store that's probably the size of a game case or something right now, and probably about as thin, and it's got a little tiny thing on the back that plugs in the wall, and is completely wireless or whatever. Who knows? I feel like that'll be the next one beyond these, but I still think these next ones,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be a disc.
Now, before we get off that subject, have you checked into this OnLive thing?
OnLive is very cool. I actually
Yeah.
I did some beta stuff for OnLive. I checked it out before it was even available for anybody, and I thought it was pretty darn close to being as good as I could hope for a single player game. Obviously, multiplayer is to me is still not there. The extra lag
Hmm.
is just too bad.
Well, yeah, but I, because I've never played one. I'm wondering, and I see people that have them. As a matter of fact, Smarzy has one, and he was playing Mafia 2, streaming it the other day,
Yeah.
and that was just crazy
Hmm.
to think about. Like I
It's
almost
amazing.
I almost want that, like it's like crazy that, and not only that, you can spectate, and any game you can play for 30 minutes. It's like there's
Yep.
always a demo, and it's just a perfect idea. I just wanted to get that out there that I'm on board with that, in case you wondered.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you talked about that because we never really covered it. And I think I briefly mentioned it early on in the history of Down the Scope. I briefly mentioned it somewhere, and I had tried it out and I really enjoyed it. And it's really a whole new concept. And I was really interested in the technology behind it. And so what they ended up doing is they take the game, they load the game. All the games and everything are completely loaded on their own servers, so they control everything. All
Hmm.
the games are 100% updated all the time. Everything is controlled. Everything is ran on these extremely high-end, high-performance servers. There's no lag. Everything is running at extremely high, frame rates. Because here's the end result. Okay, what they actually send to you, all they send to you, is the video stream of the game
Right,
where you're sending the inputs.
right,
So, the only thing you have to worry about is making sure that you can take that video stream on your network connection. You're not actually playing a game. You could take a computer that is 10 years old, has the crappiest video card in the world. Doesn't matter as long as it can display the resolution that you want to see that video stream at. The idea is the only thing you would have to do is make sure you can play a YouTube video back at 720p or something, and boom, you're good. You can play the absolute latest Crisis 2 or something in the best res that you could offer on
exactly.
your system on a computer that's like 10 years old, and you don't have to spend any more money on hardware because they've done it for you. As long as you can play the video feed, you're set.
And
And
not
I,
only
I think it's
that,
amazing.
yeah, and not only that, you can buy if the PC's not your way, you can do it on console. You can buy the console thing, and you can play it on your TV.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
so it's like, it's amazing, man. It's like it's perfect. I want to find the flaw with it, but it's like I haven't yet, and I've been looking around and reading stuff about it. It's like I don't personally need one, but boy, it would make not having to go to Best Buy every time I wanted a game pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the little devices are, they're so small, and all it is literally like a little PC that has video output and two inputs. That's about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just the whole idea is absolutely amazing. And honestly, I wish it caught on more. I don't think it's caught on very well. A lot of people still are not into it.
Well, and I think it's because a lot of people don't know all that much about it, or they're just bugged by the damn commercials all the time.
Well, yeah.
Because I mean, damn, that is a big one. It's like OnLive. Have you heard about? It's like, damn, just shut up. But it is definitely awesome, and Smarzy's got it. I've heard of a few more people that have it, and they seem to adore it. It's so. Just wanted to bring that up as something to look out for, and something that I'm definitely going to be looking out for in the future. But
Absolutely.
I think the last thing we wanted to touch on briefly was the Assassin's Creed 3 stuff we've been hearing about.
Yep, indeed, indeed.
And no, I know you're not a big Assassin's Creed player, um,
I don't have anything
but
against it. It's just I really, there's been so
mhm,
many other games I never kept up with the franchise, but I highly respect it. And just you and I were talking earlier about how Assassin's Creed it really has one upped itself over and over and over, and
yeah,
I really respect the franchise. It just never struck me as a game that really struck a nerve with me, so I haven't really kept up with it.
Yeah, well, I understand, and the thing is that they've been pumping one out every year, and that is why this game I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with it because they've changed everything. I figured that the last game would be what they would do is they would take the second game and keep using the same engine and running it over and over and over. I mean, there wasn't a whole bunch that they had to change because it all looked the same. Well, now they're moving it into the Confederate War, the Revol or what is it again that it was set in? I can't remember.
Was it the Civil War, I thought, or
I
the
think yeah,
Revolutionary War? I forget which
Revolutionary
one.
War or something like that. I don't even remember. But it's more modern, and now we're playing as an Indian, and it's pretty crazy to see that they're changing so much so late in the life of this Assassin's Creed. Um, it is pretty insane to see. What do you think about it? I mean, what do you think about the news that we've seen so far?
Well, I'm glad to see them move away from the really old periods, and by the way, it is the American Revolution is when it's set
Revolution.
during,
Okay.
and I'm actually on board for that because now, as to me anyway, this is my personal experience. I'm not sure what they're teaching in schools today, but I actually learned a whole lot more about the more recent history of our country than going way back and going into the European history where a
Hmm.
lot the other Assassin's Creed games took place. I don't always know the the geographic locations. I don't always know some of the historical references they're making. I don't know it as good as I know things like the American Revolution or the Civil War or more recent things. So for me, I'm on board for that. I love the cover. They previewed the cover recently, and it's got a the Assassin's Creed this new look, and he's got like an
Hmm.
axe, and he's kind of like got this Indian style about him, and he's
Yeah.
taking down this this American soldier character, and it just to me that is really bringing the game forward. And if they truly do continue with this franchise, I want to see them get into World War II, and get into
Oh
the
yeah.
Korean War and the Vietnam War, and just continue moving forward with all these world wars. And I mean, that's when things get really crazy because then he's going to have guns and he'll have access to other weapons. But you can still have an assassin. You can still have an assassin that does a lot of melee and stuff like that in the World War II and all that. But you can give them now the ability to have a gun as well and all that as they move forward.
Well, this is supposed to be the last one for Desmond, so I don't know what they're planning as far as continuing Assassin's Creed. Are they going to continue the whole franchise, or are they just ending Desmond, or is this it? That's another thing we're not sure of.
Yeah, I think that's kind of open right now. This is the new one. The new Assassin's Creed has a new character. It's
Mm-hmm.
not Altair and it's not Ezio. It's a Connor. I think I read it.
Yeah.
Something like that is the new character. And I'm again I'm kind of interested in that. I'm interested in them kind of creating these new characters as these the new games come out. So I don't really know much more than that at this point, but I'm really, I know the Desmond angle. They're saying that they're going to end that whole Desmond angle, the Desmond story arc in this one, but you never know, man.
Well, my guess is that the third game is going to lead to bigger and better things, and Desmond won't be needed to tell the story because I mean, really think about it, Desmond has not been the main focus of these games. It's been his ancestors,
Right.
and he doesn't even really matter, honestly. Like, I mean, that's why the ending of I can't talk about the ending of Brotherhood, but that's why the events in the ending of Brotherhood didn't affect me as much as it should have. It's because you don't really know these people.
Right.
They're not extremely close to you simply because the majority of the game, I mean, it's all taking place inside the Animus as Altair or Ezio.
Right.
So um, I don't think that Desmond's really needed for Assassin's Creed 4. And not to mention, they say that this is the last game. Now, this is the last game for Desmond. Now, does that mean that this is the last numbered game? Does that mean that just like Assassin's Creed 2, they can continue making Brotherhood and Revelations and stuff like that? So, technically 3 might be the end of him, but
Right.
they can say, okay, Desmond's not going to be in Assassin's Creed 4, but he is going to be in the what should be DLC titles for him that we're putting out after that.
Sure, exactly. I mean, who knows where they're gonna go with it? I really think that they can continue the franchise, continue the game mechanics, and continue a lot about the whole thing. And just end this Desmond story arc with this third one. And then, like you say, they come out with Assassin's Creed 4. Maybe now they focus on a whole new character. Because they finished Desmond's arc. Now they start a whole new character, and now this character's ancestors, went through, more of the modern wars that we know of now. Because, all this is taking place in the future anyway. So it doesn't matter how far they go back or how far even forward they go. I mean, they could have somebody, be in the war on terror, and he could be some kind of
Exactly.
assassin that takes out, known terrorists of today's headlines.
No
Somebody like
kidding.
Osama bin Laden or Gaddafi or any of the other leaders, in our period of time, because
Hmm.
the idea is that he's reliving these memories from his period of time, and not just Desmond. It could be another character later on, but somebody else, could be. It could be 100 years from now that they're going through all this, and he's reliving these memories. So honestly, they could just replay this over and over. They could do a 3-game series on a character just like Desmond, and then just start all over again. And it could even be part of the same experiment. This could
Oh
all be
yeah.
going on in a separate a separate corporate entity somewhere else where the same character or the same experiment is going on with a whole different character.
Oh
So
yeah, well,
no,
I mean, they already know that those are, it's like he's number like 17 out of a ton of them. So yeah, it opens up a lot of it for sure, a lot of it. But I'm definitely excited to see what happens. I'm definitely excited to see the end of Desmond, to see what they do. It just, in a way, to me, feels like a. Have you ever seen a show where it feels like they lost what they're doing? You know what I mean? They lost kind of the
yeah.
edge. They start writing into a corner.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know what you're talking about. I mean, obviously, a lot of TV shows and other stuff have done stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. That's what Assassin's Creed started to feel like to me. I mean, especially with Revelations, it felt like, if you've ever, and I know we've got a lot of fans who are Dragon Ball Z fans, if you remember in between sagas and even in the middle of sagas when they kind of put filler, you know what I mean? They put
Right.
filler episodes in. That's exactly what Assassin's Creed Revelation was. It was filler.
Well,
Um,
they had to meet their yearly release quota.
exactly. Exactly. It was filler so that they could tell the rest of Altair's story, and then they could, effectively end Ezio's story. And I just hope that doesn't, keep going. It's like some of these shows on TV, there's a story to tell, but they get picked up for 3 seasons. So they have to create 3 seasons of content. You know what I mean? If you've ever seen Prison Break, that show is about breaking out of a prison, and it's a good show. Don't get me wrong, but they were picked up for more than one season, right? And by being picked up for more than one season, they have to write about more than just being broken out of a prison. So it starts to turn into a whole different area altogether,
Right.
and it starts to feel dated and stale to me. And that's not what I want. But I know a lot of people who absolutely adored Revelations. I think that I am on the losing end of that battle when it comes to people who thought it was filler. It was filler. That's not opinion. But whether you liked it or not, that's a different thing altogether. It did definitely give some nice story elements and whatnot, but
Well, I didn't really have too much of an opinion on Revelations. I do remember it was a little overlooked in the midst
yeah.
of all the other releases that came out. I know a few people. I mean, our buddy Gage, Delta Hunter. He's a huge Assassin's Creed fan, and I know he covered it. But man, it just seemed like not too many people were giving it its just deserved. And I was interested to see what the reception of it was going to be because just like Call of Duty, I think at some point, there's franchise fatigue.
Hmm.
If you release the same game, and I know they're not the same games, okay, but I'm just making a point here is that if you release the same general universe, game mechanics, and everything that makes a franchise, if you release that same kind of thing year after year after year, at some point, the gaming crowd will get fatigued and they will just look for something new. And I guarantee you that's what's going to happen with Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed when they go
Hmm.
on these yearly release schedules. It's never good. They make their great money up front. And then in the long term, they've destroyed the franchise, and that's exactly what happened with Guitar Hero.
Right.
They did the same thing. They were like, "Oh my God, everybody wants it. They're eating it up. Let's release a new one like every 6 months." And that's what they did with that. They literally released like I think it was like 3 or 4 Guitar Hero titles per year, and of course the whole market just became oversaturated. There was nothing that anybody could do, and
Exactly.
um, and so I feel like sadly Assassin's Creed may need to take a break after this third release and maybe take a year off. We let people refresh. And in Call of Duty, of course, they'll never do it. They make too much money. It'll literally take years and years before that game, before it starts to lose momentum, and they back off of it. But they've driven it into the ground pretty hard already.
Yeah, and um, especially with the release of these new consoles, we can expect more from these games. The thing with Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed 1, obviously was nice, and then they're like Assassin's Creed 2 is going to have all these new things, but then when you start releasing Brotherhood and all these games, to me it's like, okay, well, what's going to be new? Oh, he gets a parachute. Not really what I was looking for, but okay. And then the next game, it's like, oh, he can do this. I want to see something new. Now with 3, we finally get something new. It's like, okay, now he can use a gun. He can use this. He can use that. He's not going to have the same things that Ezio and Altair had because he's going to be a little bit more advanced.
Right.
The setting's going to be completely different. It's all around going to be a better experience, I think.
Yeah.
At least I hope. But yeah, it's looking out pretty good. So keep your eye out for that, and definitely watch the gameplay trailer they released or the trailer they released. It's
Yeah.
pretty neat. And to be honest, what game are you looking forward to now out of all the games coming out that we know of so far this year?
It's kind of a sad situation. I actually haven't thought about it too much. I've looked at a few games coming out. There's a couple of things of interest to me, but this is funny because this will go back to what my love is, and that is, man, I'm really waiting for Dead Space 3.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
mean that honestly, I don't know that I'm really I'm just not excited for anything else except for the next game in the Dead Space franchise. That's what I'm looking for, believe it or
well,
not.
I know you were looking forward a little bit to Max Payne.
Yeah,
um,
Max Payne is actually, there's a lot of really cool things going on with that one. Like I mentioned before, some of the new technology they're implementing in that one. I'm really excited for Max Payne as well, just because of some of the, Rockstar really knows how to put out a good game.
yeah,
And with all some of this new technology they've got going on too, I'm really on board for that one. But they've had a rocky release schedule for that. It just kind of it kept bumping around, and I hope that they get it out because they pushed it back again. And
yeah.
so I'm kind of like, man. And then of course, as speaking of Rockstar, we've got Grand Theft Auto 5, probably going to be a very very late year release this year or possibly next year.
Yeah.
So that's another one I'm kind of looking forward to.
Well, I do have an update. Last cast we were talking about me going back and playing the first two, um, and I did. I went back and I started playing the first one, and I got to tell you, man,
Now,
it
what are you
is.
calling the first one? Are you calling Grand Theft Auto 3 the
Oh,
first
no, no,
one?
no, no, no. I'm talking about
Vice City or?
Max Payne.
Oh, Max Payne. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Because I'd never played him, and so I went back and man, I got to tell you, the voice acting is really good,
Yeah. The story
but
is good.
but the what the hell were they thinking putting that real stupid ass face on Max Payne? How utterly stupid is that? Like the first scene and he's got his eyebrow all up, and he's got this stupid smirk on his face. I'm like, what the fuck?
I know,
And
I
then
know.
and then
Even I remember at the time, I remember, and this was, when the first one came out, the internet was still, relatively new. There wasn't a lot of really great media out on the internet. So I was actually still very much a reader of PC Gamer magazine. And I remember they had several articles leading up to the release of that game where it was like that was the joke of the month, for the magazine. It was like they would put his face on various other models, and it never would look serious, and it was always hilarious. They said exactly the same thing, and I remember at the time it was like the butt of all the jokes, in the gaming industry was
yeah.
that stupid face on Max Payne.
Well, and it's not just that. What it looks like they did was they used all of the nerdy ass voice actors that did the voices as the character models in the little comic book scenes,
Yep.
because not one of them looks threatening or tough. They all look like nerds, and there's one part where you got to fight this big bald guy, and you're supposed to be scared of him, but he looks like a complete nerd, and
Yep.
he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna kill you. I'm like, wow, dude, this is horrible. The story is really good. I'm sure it gets even better, and I do enjoy it. But I'm gonna be honest, I turn my head and just listen to the dialogue because it ruins it for me. I'm like, I can't take this seriously looking at this crap. And I'm so glad they got rid of that in the second game. It's gonna be way better to me. It's gonna
Yeah.
be like one of those get through it so you can know the story kind of deals.
Exactly. And really the first one is the big pivotal, the pivotal storyline that defines Max Payne as a character. The second one is just a really good, separate storyline, has some very cool, plot moments where, you work with this other girl or whatever, and, you're kind of coming out of that stupor of having lost your wife and child to these horrible circumstances and everything. But the second one is a great game in its own right. But really, the first one, you've got to play the first one to get the true background behind what drives him.
Right. Right, yeah, and I am, and I'm seeing this and that, and some of these little things that are opening up. I'm not even. I think I'm in Act Two,
Oh yeah.
um, so I still got a little bit to go, but we'll see where it goes. I'm enjoying it. I'll tell you what though, what really made me mad is that I go to install the game, right,
All right.
and the sound doesn't work.
Oh
None
jeez.
of the cutscenes work. Come to find out, this game obviously wasn't meant to be played, on.
Windows 7, yeah, or
Yeah,
whatever.
so I have to go and find a secondary program this guy has made just to get the sound to work on a Windows 7 and Vista computer. And so
Figures.
every time I want to play the game, I got to go through a secondary program that patches the file every time. It's like, God, this sucks.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that Steam would sell a game like that. It's like they probably they should have found a fix for it beforehand, but whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
I'm a little
complain.
surprised. I'm a little surprised they did release it like that. Generally, they try to fix all those issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I
Whatever.
didn't notice, but I actually enjoyed the second game for the gameplay a lot more than the first one. The first one's kind of static, as a world. There's not a whole lot of interaction,
Oh
but the
yeah, yeah.
story is pretty solid. The second one, the world, it was one of the first games that had a lot of really good interactivity. Every time you shot something, it moved or it left a bullet hole or whatever. And I mean, again, this is all standard. We take for granted in modern day games, but Max Payne 2, man, it was a great, a great game engine. I really enjoyed it. I remember too, by the way, just an off the cuff here on Max Payne 2 was one of the first games that had working mirrors in the game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was like, I mean, it was a huge deal. It was this technological leap, and it was like a big E3 event when they said, Max Payne 2, the new game engine with working mirrors. And it's like, oh my God. It's huge. It's a big deal.
Exactly. No, that's, that's
I
great.
know.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I thought I'd bring that up before we closed out because I'm going back to some of these older games that I haven't done, haven't got to play, and that's so much fun to me going back and
Yeah.
getting to play some of these PC games and games that were meant to be played on PC, on the PC.
Well, speaking of that, before we wrap up, by the way, just as we close out here, one other mention, there's not really a whole lot of discussion for it, but one other mention for PC games you might have missed out on. Did you see the return of SimCity?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's big news this last week. They're gonna basically completely start. It's almost like a reboot of the SimCity franchise with all modern game mechanics, modern graphics. You're going to be able to zoom in all the way down to like street level, take control of people on the street, cars
Oh,
driving
that's
on the street.
crazy.
You can put in all of your own crazy catastrophes and build your city the way you want. They're going to have extremely detailed simulations for traffic and capitalism where stores next to other stores will compete with pricing, and it'll drive people down there, and you'll have all this traffic problem, and all the neighborhoods will go bad if you don't have if you have an industrial area too close. All these new things that they've never been able to do before. They're talking about making it possibly even a release this year because they've kept it very hush hush. And
Right.
the game engine is apparently practically done. They're still working on a lot of the other elements, but it's possible we may even see that as a release this year. And of course, the way to play SimCity, I'm sure they're going to have a console version. In fact, I'm pretty sure they announced a console version. But the way to play SimCity is on PC.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't. Well, any RTS type based kind of game, it's like I know it's not a real time strategy game, but it's. I mean, it kind of is.
It really is, yeah. And in fact, it's got so many similar elements. You're pointing and clicking everywhere. You just can't do that with a
Yeah.
console pad.
I tried to play Civilization on the PS3, and it's just like,
Oh yeah,
nah,
it's torture.
You got to play that on the PC. You got to have your mouse. And I'll tell you right now, I mean, it's like just playing. I mean, I can still enjoy an FPS on a console, but man, it's just so much more fun on a PC. I
I
mean,
know.
even Borderlands, especially Borderlands, where you got to pick up all the stuff. You're always picking up junk, and it's so hard to do. Like when you're in the middle of combat and you're having to hit the X button. Here it's just like I can still look around and just pick everything up so easily. Just want to say it's awesome. I love this.
Indeed.
I love my PC. It's definitely my favorite game console right now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So and of course I've talked about it forever, and I'm just glad to see you kind of getting into that now.
Oh, I
I'm
know.
really I'm excited about a lot of.
Well, it's kind of like before. I just wanted to just not talk about it because I didn't have one.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right,
It's like I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about what you have and I don't.
right, exactly, right.
But anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the week.
Yeah,
Sorry for last week. Did you get my message about what happened last week? It's
yeah.
actually a funny story.
Yeah, go ahead and tell everybody because I'm sure everybody want to know what happened last week too. And
Yeah.
even for me during the week, it's so difficult. But yeah, tell them what happened.
So what happened was Friday night, or actually it was Thursday night. I have actually two Skype accounts. One of them I made a long time ago, and it's basically the one I made to talk to my family. It's the one that I originally made before I needed Skype for any online interaction. Well, the name on that Skype account is Brad. My last name. Okay, and when I got a message last year, I think it was like last October or so, I got a message from Spiderbite telling me, "Hey, give me a call," or he's like, "Get on Skype tonight, and I'll give you a call." And I was like, "Oh, sweet!" So I got on Skype. It was when that contest was going on, and I really wanted to talk to him. Well, come to find out, I was like sitting there. I was like, "Wait a minute, he may not know my real name." So I made another account called, Veridia, so that he would know who it was. In any case, Thursday I was on my Brad account, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I just left the computer on. Well, Friday night comes around, and I thought that it was my main account. And I'm looking on the side there, and I don't see Anakinn's name. I was like, all right, well, when he signs on, I'll get going. And he never signed on. I was like, all right, well, I guess he had something to do. And of course, wasn't the actual account. I was logged into the wrong one. So that's why there was no DTS. Completely my fault. Very stupid reason. I don't even know what I was thinking. I've been watching this show called Prison Break. I think it replaced The Shield on FX, and I was getting into it pretty good. So that caused a lot of problem as well because I kept looking away, and I would look away for like 40, 50 minutes at a time and not look back over. So I wasn't really noticing that it wasn't the same account until the next morning when I was like, I was trying to contact you and say, hey, what the heck happened, man? So yeah, that's pretty much what happened there. But anyway, guys, we are running out of time for this week. I want to thank you for listening, and I also want to encourage you to go and email us with any comments or concerns or topics that you might have at podcastdownthescope@gmail.com. We covered a few that were talked about today that we got emails about. Kind of. I mean, we got a lot of emails, but a lot of it's about stuff we've already done or discussed. If you guys don't know what we've discussed, please head over to the archives on my channel and check out the other podcasts, and then you'll know what we have discussed and what we haven't. But in any case, that is pretty much it for this week. Again, thanks for listening. Anakin, you got anything left to say?
Nothing else, I guess. I mean, we're gonna try to get back on a normal schedule, see if we can get things moving, and we'll try to catch up with you guys every week. If you don't see something from us every week, just know that something came up, very similar to what
Exactly.
happened this week, and hopefully we'll try to be on a fairly regular schedule, but we'll see
Also,
how it goes.
yeah, also we didn't get a whole bunch of responses. We did get quite a few, but we didn't get a whole bunch of responses about the live stream. To the people who did respond, they thought it was a really good idea. But we want a lot of responses, guys. Please leave your comments below telling us what you think about it. And if you did tell us that you thought it was a good idea, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. The only concern that was brought up by a few people was, just the fact that there was, different time zones, and we understand that, but that's just part of life. We can't really, can't really do anything about that. But leave what you guys think about the live stream, and we'll possibly start doing it that way. It's a very good idea to do it that way.
Right.
In any case, I'm Viridia. This is Anakin. It's been episode 42 of Down the Scope,
Indeed.
and I guess we're out.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for listening as always, guys, and we will hopefully see you guys next week. Thanks again.
Later.
Later.